My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. The woman standing in my doorway wasn't supposed to exist. She wore a tailored black suit that probably cost more than my car, her silver hair pulled back in a sleek bun, and her eyes held something I hadn't seen directed at me in 12 years. Respect. "Mrs. Turner," she said, her voice calm but carrying an edge that made my stomach drop. "My name is Victoria Ashford. I have information about your husband, David. Information that will change everything you believe about the last 12 years of your life. I'm Rebecca Turner. I'm 42 years old, and I thought I was a widow. 12 years ago, my husband David vanished without a trace. No body, no note, no explanation. Just gone. One morning, he kissed me goodbye, told our daughter Emma he'd be at her soccer game that weekend, ruffled our son Lucas's hair, and walked out the door. He never came back. The police searched for months. They dragged the river. They interviewed everyone we knew. They treated me like a suspect, then like a victim, then finally like a nuisance when the case went cold. The official file still lists him as a missing person, presumed dead, but never confirmed. I became that woman, the one people whispered about at the grocery store. Poor Rebecca, raising those kids all alone. Such a tragedy. They'd look at me with pity, their eyes sliding away when I tried to smile, like my pain was contagious. Emma was 12 when her father disappeared. Lucas was 9. They're 24 and 21 now. Emma just finished her master's degree in education, paying for it with scholarships and 3 part-time jobs because I couldn't help her. Lucas is in his 3rd year of college, working nights at a warehouse to cover what his student loans don't. I worked 3 jobs for years. During the day, I was a receptionist at a dental office. Evenings, I cleaned office buildings. Weekends, I waited tables at a diner. I sold our house and moved us into a 2-bedroom apartment. I sold David's car, his tools, everything that had value. I did what I had to do. Every night, I looked at our wedding photo hanging on the wall. David's smile, so bright and genuine, his arm around my waist. I'd whisper into the darkness, "Where are you? What happened to you?" Some nights I was angry. Most nights I just cried. The hardest part wasn't the money or the exhaustion. It was watching my children grieve for a father who might have been lying dead somewhere, or worse, might have left us intentionally. Emma became quiet and withdrawn, throwing herself into school. Lucas had nightmares for years, waking up screaming for his dad. I held them. I told them their father loved them. I told them that whatever happened, it wasn't their fault. I told them we would survive this together. And we did. Barely. Now this woman, this Victoria Ashford, was standing in my doorway telling me she had information. My first instinct was to slam the door in her face. How many private investigators, psychics, and con artists had knocked on this door over the years, promising answers for a price? But something about her was different. She wasn't trying to sell me hope. She looked like she was delivering a death sentence. "I don't have money for whatever you're selling," I said, my voice harder than I felt. "I've heard every theory, every scam. Unless you have David's body, or absolute proof of what happened to him, I'm not interested." Victoria's expression didn't change. She reached into her briefcase and pulled out a tablet. "Mrs. Turner, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here because your husband's actions 12 years ago hurt people I care about, people with resources. And now, those resources are at your disposal if you want them." She turned the tablet toward me. The screen showed a photograph. My knees went weak. It was David. Older, with gray at his temples and a deeper tan than I remembered. But it was definitely David. He was standing on a yacht, champagne glass in hand, wearing clothes that screamed wealth. His smile was the same smile from our wedding photo, but this time his arm was around a different woman. She was younger than me, blonde, beautiful in that effortless way that comes from money and time. She wore a diamond ring that caught the sunlight like a small sun on her finger. "Who is she?" I whispered. "Her name is Jennifer Blake. She's been David's wife for the past 11 years. The word hit me like a physical blow. Wife. Victoria swiped to the next photo. David and Jennifer with 2 children. A girl who looked about 10 and a boy around 8. They were at what looked like a birthday party, all 4 of them laughing, surrounded by elaborate decorations and expensive gifts. "Those are David's children with Jennifer," Victoria continued, her voice clinical, like she was presenting evidence in court. "Madison is 10. Christopher is 8. They live in a beachfront mansion in Santa Barbara. David goes by the name Marcus Bennett now. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. Victoria steadied me, guiding me to sit on my worn couch. The same couch I'd kept from our old house because I couldn't afford to replace it. He didn't disappear, I heard myself say. The words felt like glass in my throat. He left us. He left us and started over. It's worse than that, Victoria said, sitting across from me. She pulled up more photos. David, Marcus, whatever his name was, standing in front of office buildings, shaking hands with men in expensive suits, cutting ribbons at grand openings. Your husband didn't just leave. He orchestrated an elaborate disappearance to escape an investigation into financial fraud. He was embezzling from his company, running investment scams, laundering money for criminal organizations. When he realized the FBI was closing in, he faked his disappearance, took millions in stolen money, and rebuilt his life under a new identity. She swiped through more images. Bank statements showing transfers of massive amounts, property deeds, business licenses. A whole life built on lies and stolen money. While you were working 3 jobs to feed your children, David was living in luxury. While your daughter paid for college with scholarships, and your son worked warehouse shifts, David was sending his new children to private schools that cost more per year than you earned in 3. While you cried yourself to sleep wondering if he was dead, he was sleeping peacefully next to his new wife in a bed that cost more than your car. I felt something break inside me, not my heart. That had broken 12 years ago. This was something else, something that had been holding me together all these years. The belief that David had loved us, the hope that something terrible had happened to him, not that he'd chosen to leave us. How do you know all this? My voice sounded strange, distant. Victoria leaned forward. My brother was one of David's business partners, one of the people he framed for his crimes. My brother went to prison for 7 years because of David's lies. He lost everything. His business, his reputation, his family. He committed suicide 3 years ago. Her voice never wavered, but I saw the rage burning behind her eyes. I've spent years tracking David, building evidence, waiting for the right moment, and now that moment has come. The FBI has new leadership, new priorities. I have connections, I have resources, and I have proof that will put David in prison for the rest of his life. She paused, her gaze intense. But I don't just want legal justice, Mrs. Turner. I want him to lose everything, the way he made others lose everything. I want his new wife to discover she's been living a lie. I want his children to know their comfortable life was built on stolen money and ruined lives. I want him to watch it all crumble. And I want the wife he abandoned, the woman he left to suffer, to be the one who brings him down. I stared at the photos on the tablet. David laughing. David wealthy. David happy. While Emma cried herself to sleep for years, while Lucas had nightmares, while I worked myself to exhaustion and still couldn't give my children what they deserved. Why me? I asked. You have all this evidence. You could destroy him yourself. Victoria smiled, and it was terrifying, because when he sees you walk into that courtroom, when he realizes you know everything, when he understands that the woman he thought he destroyed is the one destroying him, that will hurt more than any prison sentence. That will be justice. She pulled out a folder, thick with documents. I have unlimited resources, Mrs. Turner. Lawyers, investigators, financial experts. I can prove every crime David committed. I can trace every dollar he stole. I can expose every lie he told. But I need your cooperation. I need you to be willing to face him, to testify, to stand in the light while his darkness is revealed. I thought about Emma, about how I'd have to tell her that her father hadn't died or gotten lost. He'd chosen to abandon her. I thought about Lucas, who still sometimes talked about when Dad comes back. I thought about 12 years of grief that had been completely unnecessary. What if I say no? I whispered. What if I just want to forget any of this happened? Victoria closed the folder. Then David continues his life. He continues spending stolen money. He continues being happy while good people suffer. And your children continue believing a lie. Either the lie that their father loved them but something tragic happened, or eventually, when the truth comes out another way, the lie that their mother knew and said nothing. She stood, straightening her suit. I'll give you 24 hours to decide, but I need you to understand something, Rebecca. Every day you wait is another day David spends money that should have gone to your children. Another day he sleeps peacefully while you carry this burden. Another day, he wins. She placed a business card on my coffee table, embossed with gold lettering. When you're ready to make him pay, call me. I'll handle everything else. After she left, I sat in the darkness of my apartment, looking at the photos on the tablet she'd left behind. David's new family smiled back at me, frozen in their perfect, stolen happiness. I thought about the last 12 years, every missed meal so my kids could eat, every birthday gift I couldn't afford, every time I saw other families together and felt that hollow ache, every morning I woke up exhausted, and every night I fell asleep crying. He had made that choice. All of it. Every moment of our suffering was his choice. I picked up the phone and dialed Emma's number. When she answered, her voice bright with surprise at hearing from me so late, I almost couldn't speak. "Mom? Is everything okay?" I looked at the photo of David with his new children, the children he'd chosen over Emma and Lucas. "Sweetheart, I need you and Lucas to come over tomorrow. There's something I need to tell you both. Something about your father." There was a long silence. Then Emma's voice, smaller now, uncertain. "You found him?" "Yes," I said, tears streaming down my face. "I found him." After I hung up, I sat in the darkness for a long time. Then I picked up Victoria's card and sent a text. "I'm in. Let's destroy him." The response came immediately. "Good. Come to my office tomorrow at 10 a.m. Bring your children if you've told them. They deserve to be part of this." I looked at our wedding photo on the wall one last time. Tomorrow I would take it down. Tomorrow I would stop grieving for a man who wasn't dead. Tomorrow I would start the process of making David pay for every lie, every betrayal, every moment of pain he'd caused. But tonight, I let myself cry. Not for David, not for our marriage, not even for the life we'd lost. I cried for the woman I'd been 12 years ago, who'd trusted and loved and believed. That woman was gone. David had killed her more surely than if he'd put a bullet through her heart. The woman who would face him in court would be someone new, someone harder, someone who understood that sometimes justice isn't about healing. Sometimes justice is about making sure the person who hurt you understands exactly what they've done. And David was about to understand in ways he never imagined possible. The next morning, I stood at my kitchen counter, making coffee I wouldn't drink, waiting for Emma and Lucas to arrive. My hands were still shaking, but not from fear anymore, from rage, from a fury that had been building for 12 years and finally had a target. Emma arrived first. She let herself in with her key, and I saw immediately that she hadn't slept. Her eyes were red, her face pale. She'd spent the night imagining possibilities, just like I had for 12 years. "Mom?" she said, her voice cracking. "What did you find out?" Lucas came in right behind her, his jaw tight. At 21, he looked so much like David it hurt. Same dark hair, same strong jawline, but his eyes were mine. Soft, kind, nothing like the cold calculation I'd seen in David's face in those photos. I sat them down at the kitchen table, the same table where we'd eaten countless meals together, where I'd helped with homework, where we'd celebrated small victories because we couldn't afford big ones. "Your father is alive," I said. No preamble, no gentle build-up. They deserved the truth, and I was done protecting them from it. Emma's hand flew to her mouth. Lucas's face went blank, the way it did when he was processing something too big to show emotion. "Where is he?" Lucas asked. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the edge of the table until his knuckles went white. I pulled out the tablet Victoria had left. I showed them everything. Every photo, every document, every piece of evidence that proved David had chosen to leave us, had built a new life, had replaced us like we were defective products he'd traded in for better models. Emma started crying before I finished. Huge, racking sobs that shook her whole body. I moved to hold her, but she pulled away. "He was alive this whole time," she said between gasps. "All those years I thought he might be hurt somewhere, might need us, might be trying to get back to us. And he was just living his perfect life with his perfect new family?" "Yes," I said. The word was bitter. Lucas stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. He paced the kitchen, his hands clenched into fists. I cried for him. I had nightmares about him. I blamed myself, thought maybe if I'd been better, he wouldn't have left. His voice broke on the last word, and he just didn't want us anymore. "It wasn't about you," I said quickly. "Either of you. This was about him, about his crimes, his lies, his cowardice." "Don't," Emma said sharply. She wiped her eyes, and when she looked at me, I saw something I'd never seen in my gentle daughter before. Rage. Don't make excuses for him. He didn't leave because of crimes. He left because he wanted to. He could have faced the consequences. He could have gone to prison and still been our father. Instead, he erased us. She picked up the tablet, staring at the photo of David's new children. He has a daughter. She's 10, the same age I was when he left. The parallel hit me like a punch. David had abandoned his 12-year-old daughter, then immediately started over with a new baby girl. Like Emma had been a rough draft he'd perfected in the second version. "What are we going to do?" Lucas asked. He'd stopped pacing and was standing by the window, looking out at the street. "Are we going to confront him?" I told them about Victoria, about her brother, about the evidence, about the plan to expose everything and bring David to justice. "She wants us to be part of it," I said. "She wants us there when he's arrested, when his new life falls apart, when he realizes we know everything. But I want you both to understand what that means. This won't be easy. It won't be clean. We'll have to relive everything. We'll have to testify. We'll have to face him." Emma stood up, her tears dried. Her expression hardened in a way that made her look older than 24. "Good. I want him to see my face when his world ends. I want him to know that the daughter he threw away is the one who helped destroy him." Lucas turned from the window. "What about his other kids? Madison and Christopher? They're just kids. They didn't do anything wrong." The question stopped me. I hadn't thought about David's new children as real people. They were just proof of his betrayal. But Lucas was right. They were children. Innocent. When the truth comes out, their lives will be destroyed too, Lucas continued. Their father will go to prison. They'll find out everything was a lie. They'll lose their home, their school, probably their mother's trust. Just like we did, except they're younger. "That's not our responsibility," Emma said coldly. "They're not our problem. They're our half-siblings," Lucas shot back. "And they're about to go through the same hell we went through. Maybe worse." The argument crystallized something I hadn't fully processed. This wasn't just about David anymore. It was about Jennifer, who might not have known she was living with a fugitive. It was about Madison and Christopher, who would learn their entire life was based on lies and stolen money. It was about all the people David had hurt to build his new empire. "Victoria said I have 24 hours to decide," I said quietly, "but I've already decided. I'm doing this. I'm exposing him. But I need to know if you two are with me, because once we start this, we can't stop. The consequences will be massive, not just for David, but for everyone connected to him." Emma didn't hesitate. "I'm in." Lucas took longer. He looked between me and Emma, his face troubled. Finally, he nodded. "I'm in. But Mom, promise me something. When this is over, we don't become like him. We don't let revenge turn us into people who hurt innocents to get what we want." I pulled both my children into a hug, holding them tight the way I'd held them through every crisis for the past 12 years. "I promise. This is about justice, not cruelty. We're better than him. We'll always be better than him." At 10 a.m., we walked into Victoria Ashford's office building in downtown Seattle. The lobby was all marble and glass, the kind of place I'd never had reason to enter before. Emma held my hand on one side, Lucas on the other, the three of us presenting a united front. Victoria's assistant led us to a conference room on the 20th floor. Victoria was already there, along with 3 other people, 2 men in expensive suits, lawyers I assumed, and a woman with sharp eyes and a tablet. "Mrs. Turner," Victoria said, standing to shake my hand. Her grip was firm. "I'm glad you're here, and you must be Emma and Lucas." She shook their hands too, her expression softening slightly when she looked at them. "I'm sorry for what you're about to learn. Your father's crimes go deeper than you know." We sat down, and Victoria nodded to the woman with the tablet. "This is Sandra Chen, forensic accountant. She's going to walk you through the financial evidence." For the next hour, Sandra showed us the scope of David's crimes. He'd embezzled over $15 million from his company. He'd run investment scams that bankrupted dozens of families. He'd laundered money for organized crime syndicates. He'd committed identity fraud, tax evasion, and securities fraud. "The statute of limitations hasn't expired on most of these crimes," Sandra explained. "And with the new evidence we've gathered, we can prove everything. But here's the thing that matters most to you." She pulled up a document. When David disappeared, his company's insurance paid out a death benefit, $300,000. It should have gone to you, Mrs. Turner, as his wife and beneficiary. I stared at the number. $300,000. That would have changed everything. Emma's college, Lucas's education, our apartment, everything. Where did it go? I asked, though I already knew the answer. David's partner embezzled it before fleeing, Sandra said. Except we can now prove that partner was David himself, using a fake identity. He took the death benefit paid out because of his own fake death and used it to fund his new life. He literally profited from abandoning you. Emma's hand found mine under the table, squeezing so hard it hurt. Lucas's face had gone pale. One of the lawyers spoke up. With the evidence we have, we can not only prosecute David criminally, but we can also file a massive civil suit. Every asset he has, every property, every investment, it's all proceeds from crime. It can be seized and redistributed to his victims, including you. How much? I asked. The lawyer consulted his notes. Based on current valuations, we estimate David's net worth at approximately $43 million. The number was incomprehensible. $43 million. While I'd worked 3 jobs and my children went without, David had accumulated $43 million in stolen money. Victoria leaned forward. Here's what I'm proposing. We build an airtight case. We gather every piece of evidence. Then we strike fast and hard. We have David arrested in the most public way possible. We expose every crime. We seize every asset. And we make sure the whole world knows who he really is. What about Jennifer and the kids? Lucas asked. What happens to them? Jennifer Blake, or Jennifer Bennett as she calls herself now, is legally married to David under his false identity, one of the lawyers explained. When we prove that identity is fraudulent, that marriage is void. She'll have no legal claim to any of the assets. As for the children, they're minors. The state will likely place them with relatives or in foster care while Jennifer's situation is sorted out. I saw Lucas flinch. Foster care. The same system that terrified so many kids, that broke families apart. The same system we'd barely avoided when things were at their worst. Is there any way to protect them? I asked. The kids, I mean. Victoria's expression hardened. They're not your responsibility, Rebecca. But they're Lucas and Emma's half-siblings, I said. And they're innocent. David made choices that will destroy them, just like he destroyed us. If we soften our approach to protect David's new family, he might escape justice, Victoria warned. Are you willing to risk that? I looked at Emma and Lucas. Emma's jaw was set, her eyes hard. She wanted blood. Lucas looked conflicted, torn between justice for us and mercy for children who'd done nothing wrong. I need time to think, I said. This is bigger than I realized. There are more people involved, more lives at stake. Victoria's expression cooled. Rebecca, I've spent 3 years planning this. I've invested resources, time, connections. If you're having second thoughts, I'm not, I interrupted. I want David to pay for what he did, but I need to make sure we're doing this the right way. That we're not becoming the kind of people who destroy innocent lives to get revenge. I stood up. Give me 3 days. Let me process everything. Let me talk to my children. Then I'll give you my final answer. Victoria stood as well, her posture rigid. 3 days. But understand this, Rebecca. Every day we wait is another day David spends money he stole. Another day he lives freely while good people suffer. Justice delayed is justice denied. I understand, I said. But I've waited 12 years. 3 more days won't change anything. We left the office in silence. In the elevator, Emma finally spoke. You're thinking about protecting them. David's new kids. Aren't you? I asked. She didn't answer. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Madison and Christopher, 10 and 8, the same age as Emma and Lucas had been when David left. What would it do to them when their father was arrested, when they learned their whole life was a lie, when they lost their home, their school, their sense of safety? But then I thought about Emma at 12, crying herself to sleep every night, Lucas at 9, having nightmares, asking me if Daddy left because he wasn't good enough, the years of poverty, of exhaustion, of barely surviving while David lived in luxury. Didn't we deserve justice? Didn't David's other victims deserve to see him punished? Wasn't protecting his new children just another way of letting him win? My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Can't sleep. Thinking about everything. Can we talk? I called her immediately. Hey, sweetie. Mom, I've been thinking about what Lucas said. About Madison and Christopher. Her voice was thick, like she'd been crying. I want Dad to suffer. I want him to lose everything. But I keep imagining that little girl, Madison, finding out her father is a criminal, finding out her whole life is fake. I know, I said softly. I was 12, Mom. 12. Old enough to understand what was happening, but too young to process it. She's 10. She's going to blame herself. She's going to think she wasn't good enough, just like I did, just like Lucas did. Emma's voice broke. I hate Dad. I hate what he did to us, but I don't want to do to Madison what he did to me. Does that make me weak? No, I said, tears streaming down my face. It makes you human. It makes you better than him. So what do we do? She asked. I thought about Victoria's words. Justice delayed is justice denied. I thought about all of David's other victims, people who'd lost everything because of his crimes. I thought about Victoria's brother, who'd killed himself after going to prison for David's crimes. I don't know, I admitted, but I think we need to find a way to get justice without destroying innocent people, even if those innocent people are David's children. Is that possible? Emma asked. I don't know, but I'm going to try. The next day I called Victoria and asked for a meeting. Just the two of us. We met at a coffee shop, neutral ground. Victoria looked tired, like she hadn't slept either. I've been thinking about your brother, I said after we ordered, about what David's crimes cost him. I'm so sorry. Victoria's expression softened slightly. Thank you. He was a good man. David destroyed him. I want David to pay, I said, but I need to know something. Is this about justice for your brother and David's other victims? Or is this about revenge? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Does it matter? Yes, I said. Because if it's just revenge, then we're no better than David. We're just hurting people to make ourselves feel better. David deserves to be hurt, Victoria said coldly. I agree, but his children don't. His new wife doesn't, assuming she didn't know about his crimes. And the dozens of families he defrauded don't deserve to wait longer for restitution while we plan the perfect revenge. I leaned forward. I want to propose something different. We still expose David. We still gather all the evidence. We still have him arrested and prosecuted. But we do it in a way that protects the innocent people caught in the blast radius. We work with Jennifer to help her understand she's a victim too. We make sure Madison and Christopher have support. We focus on justice, not spectacle. Victoria's eyes narrowed. You want to go easy on him. No, I want to destroy him legally and completely, but I want to do it without becoming him. I pulled out my phone and showed her photos. Emma at 12, her eyes hollow with grief. Lucas at 9, clutching his father's old baseball like it was a lifeline. Me, exhausted and broken, working 3 jobs and still not enough. David made us into these people, I said. Victims, survivors, people defined by what he did to us. If I let revenge consume me, if I hurt innocent people to make him suffer more, then I'm letting him win. He's still defining who I am. I put my phone away. I want justice. Real justice. The kind that makes things right, not just the kind that causes more pain. Can you help me do that? Or do you need pure revenge? Victoria stared at her coffee for a long time. When she looked up, her eyes were wet. My brother, she said quietly. Before he died, he told me not to let David turn me into someone I wasn't. Not to let revenge poison me the way it poisoned David. I ignored him. I told myself that stopping David was worth any cost. She wiped her eyes. But you're right. If I destroy innocent children to hurt David, I'm just creating more victims. More people whose lives are defined by what he did. That doesn't honor my brother. It dishonors him. So we do this differently, I said. We get justice. We protect the innocent. And we prove that we're better than David. All of us. Victoria nodded slowly. It won't be as satisfying as watching him lose everything in the most painful way possible. No, I agreed, but it will let us sleep at night. Over the next 3 days, we revised the plan. Instead of a public spectacle, we would work with federal prosecutors to build an airtight case. We would approach Jennifer carefully, giving her the truth and the choice to cooperate or be caught in the legal destruction. We would ensure Madison and Christopher had counseling and support before, during, and after the revelation. It would take longer. It would be more complicated. But it would be right. On the 3rd day, I gathered Emma and Lucas again. I explained the new plan. Emma was skeptical at first, wanting the dramatic justice she'd imagined. But Lucas supported it immediately. This is who we are, Em, he said to his sister. We protect people. We don't destroy them. even when they're connected to someone who hurt us. Emma finally nodded. Okay, but Mom, promise me one thing. David still suffers. He still loses everything. He still goes to prison for decades. We're protecting his kids, not him. I promise, I said. David will get exactly what he deserves. We're just making sure innocent people don't get caught in the crossfire. 2 weeks later, Victoria called me. It's time. The FBI is ready to move. We've coordinated with local police in Santa Barbara. Are you ready? My heart pounded. I'm ready. Jennifer has been contacted by our lawyers. Victoria continued. She knows the basics. Her husband is not who he claims to be, and she's married to a fugitive. She's agreed to meet with you before the arrest. Why me? I asked. Because she needs to hear the truth from the person who lived it. She needs to understand what kind of man she's been married to. And honestly, Rebecca, I think you need to see her face when she realizes her entire marriage is a lie. Not for revenge, for closure. The meeting was set for the next day, at a hotel in Santa Barbara. Victoria and I would meet Jennifer there. The FBI would make the arrest the following morning. That night, I packed a small bag. Emma and Lucas wanted to come, but I said no. This first meeting needed to be just me. When it was time for the arrest, for David to see all of us together, then they would be there. I drove to Santa Barbara alone, 5 hours of highway giving me time to think. What would I say to Jennifer? How do you tell a woman her entire life is a lie? How do you explain that the man she loves, the father of her children, is a monster who abandoned his first family without a second thought? The hotel was on the beach, beautiful and expensive. Of course it was. Everything in David's new life was beautiful and expensive, paid for with stolen money and built on lies. Jennifer was already in the conference room when I arrived. She was even more beautiful in person than in the photos. Blonde hair perfectly styled, designer clothes, diamonds at her ears and throat, but her eyes were red, her hands shaking as she held a cup of coffee. She looked up when I entered, and I saw her breath catch. Maybe she saw the resemblance. Maybe she just recognized the look of a woman who'd been devastated by David. You're Rebecca, she said. Her voice was soft, cultured, nothing like my working-class accent. I am, I said, sitting across from her. I'm sorry we have to meet like this. Jennifer laughed, a bitter sound. The lawyers told me everything, or at least they told me the basic facts, but I need to hear it from you. I need to know if my entire marriage has been a lie. So I told her. All of it. Our marriage, our children. The morning David left and never came back. The 12 years of believing he was dead. The 3 jobs and the poverty and the struggle. The way Emma and Lucas grew up grieving for a father who had chosen to abandon them. Jennifer cried quietly as I spoke. When I finished, she said, I never knew. I swear to you, I never knew. Marcus told me he was a businessman from San Diego. He said he'd lost his family in a car accident. He showed me a scar on his shoulder and said it was from the crash. Was the scar real? I asked. Yes, but he probably got it falling off a bike or something equally mundane. God, I'm such an idiot. You're not an idiot, I said. You're a victim, just like me, just like all the people David defrauded. Jennifer looked up sharply. The lawyers said there were crimes, financial crimes. Is that true? I nodded. David embezzled millions. He ran investment scams. He laundered money for criminals. The man you married doesn't exist, Jennifer. Marcus Bennett is a fake identity. And everything you have, your house, your cars, your lifestyle, it's all purchased with stolen money. She put her head in her hands. What's going to happen to Madison and Christopher? They're just children. I know, I said gently. That's why we're doing this carefully. There will be counselors. There will be support. And I want you to know, even though David destroyed my family, I don't want him to destroy yours too. Jennifer looked at me with something like wonder. How can you not hate me? I'm married to your husband. I have his children. I've been living the life that should have been yours. Because you didn't know, I said simply. You're as much a victim as I am. David lied to both of us. He used both of us. And the only person responsible for that is David. We talked for another hour. I told her about Emma and Lucas. She told me about Madison and Christopher. We found bitter common ground in loving children who would both be devastated by the truth about their father. Will you help me tell them? Jennifer asked finally. Madison and Christopher, I mean. When it's time for them to know. Will you help me explain? They should know they have a sister and brother. that they're not alone in this. I thought about Emma's rage and Lucas's hurt. Would they want to meet David's other children? Would it help or hurt? Yes, I said. When the time is right, we'll tell them together. And Emma and Lucas will meet Madison and Christopher. They're all victims of the same man. They should know each other. Jennifer reached across the table and took my hand. Thank you, for being kinder than I deserve, for protecting my children when you have every right to hate them. They're children, I said. They deserve protection. That's what mothers do. The next morning, I stood with Victoria across the street from David's mansion. It was even more ostentatious in person. Spanish tile roof, massive windows overlooking the ocean, a circular driveway with a fountain in the center. This was the life he'd chosen over us. FBI agents were already in position. Local police blocked the exits. Victoria had insisted on doing this in the early morning, before Madison and Christopher left for school. Jennifer had taken them to a friend's house for a sleepover the night before, so they wouldn't witness their father's arrest. At 7 a.m. exactly, agents moved in. Through binoculars, I watched David answer the door in a bathrobe. I saw his face change as he recognized federal badges. I saw him try to close the door, saw agents push through. I saw him in handcuffs, being led out of his mansion in front of neighbors who would now know the truth, and I felt nothing, not satisfaction, not revenge, not even relief. Just a hollow emptiness where 12 years of grief used to be. He's in custody, Victoria said, lowering her own binoculars. It's over. No, I said quietly. It's just beginning. The trial took 9 months to prepare. David, or Marcus, or whatever he wanted to call himself, hired expensive lawyers. They tried every trick. They claimed entrapment, illegal search, vindictive prosecution. They painted David as a victim of mistaken identity, but the evidence was overwhelming. Sandra's financial forensics proved every crime. Victoria's investigators traced every stolen dollar. And most damaging of all, Jennifer testified against him. She took the stand and told the jury how David had lied to her for 11 years, how he'd claimed to be someone he wasn't, how he'd built their life on stolen money and fake identity documents. She cried when she described telling Madison and Christopher that their father was going to prison, that their home would be sold, that everything they knew was a lie. Then it was my turn. I walked into that courtroom with Emma and Lucas on either side of me. David was sitting at the defense table in an expensive suit, looking thinner than in the photos but still recognizable. When he saw us, his face went white. I took the stand and told our story. The morning he left, the 12 years of grief, the poverty and struggle and pain, the way Emma had cried herself to sleep for years, the way Lucas had nightmares, the way I'd worked 3 jobs and still couldn't give my children what they needed. And I looked directly at David the entire time. His lawyers tried to discredit me. They suggested I was exaggerating, that David had legitimate reasons to disappear, that I was motivated by bitterness and revenge. Emma took the stand next. At 24, she was poised and articulate. She described being 12 years old and losing her father. She described the years of therapy. She described paying for college herself because her mother was too poor to help. She described the moment she learned her father had been alive and happy the entire time, living in luxury while she went without. My father made a choice, she said, her voice steady. He chose to abandon his children. He chose to steal from innocent people. He chose to build a life based on lies. And now he needs to face the consequences of those choices. Lucas testified last. He was quieter, more emotional. He cried when he described his nightmares. He cried when he talked about blaming himself for David leaving. He cried when he said he'd fantasized for years about his father coming back, about explaining that it had all been a mistake, that he'd been trying to get back to us the whole time. But it wasn't a mistake, Lucas said, wiping his eyes. He chose to leave. He chose to forget us, and that's something I'll never forgive. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous, guilty, on all counts. Embezzlement, wire fraud, money laundering, identity fraud, tax evasion, insurance fraud. The judge sentenced him to 32 years in federal prison. No parole. He would be 78 when he got out, if he lived that long. David stood as the sentence was read. his face expressionless. But when the bailiffs came to take him away, he looked at me one last time. I saw no remorse, no regret, just a cold assessment, like he was calculating whether he could have gotten away with it if he'd been more careful. I looked back at him with the same emptiness I'd felt the morning of his arrest. He was nothing to me now. Not a husband, not a father, not even an enemy, just a criminal getting what he deserved. After the trial, the long process of asset forfeiture began. David's mansion was sold. His cars, his boats, his investment accounts, everything was liquidated and distributed to his victims. Jennifer got enough to support Madison and Christopher until they were adults, with conditions that it be held in trust and used only for their care and education. The money couldn't be touched by anyone else, ensuring it would actually benefit the children. The families David had defrauded got their money back, with interest, and Emma, Lucas, and I received compensation for the death benefit David had stolen, plus additional damages for emotional distress and lost financial support. It was more money than I'd ever imagined having, enough to pay off Emma's student loans and Lucas's tuition, enough to buy a house, enough to finally, after 12 years, stop struggling. But the money didn't feel like victory. It felt like payment for loss. You can't buy back 12 years of your children's childhood. You can't purchase the grief and fear and exhaustion. You can't compensate for the damage done to young souls who learned too early that the world is cruel and people you love can abandon you. 3 months after the trial, I did something I'd been putting off. I arranged a meeting between Emma, Lucas, Madison, and Christopher. We met at a park halfway between Seattle and Jennifer's new apartment in Sacramento. It was neutral ground, public, but quiet, a place where children could meet without feeling trapped. Jennifer brought Madison and Christopher. They were smaller than I'd imagined, more fragile. Madison, now 11, held her mother's hand tightly. Christopher, 9, looked sullen and angry, his jaw set in a way that reminded me painfully of Lucas at that age. Emma and Lucas stood on either side of me, forming our family unit. We looked like two armies about to negotiate a truce. Madison, Christopher, Jennifer said gently. These are Emma and Lucas. They're your half-sister and half-brother. And this is Rebecca, their mother. Madison looked at us with wide, frightened eyes. Christopher just glared. Our dad hurt your family, Lucas said, stepping forward. His voice was kind, the way it always was with children. He hurt our mom, and he hurt us. But we know it's not your fault. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why does everyone hate us? Madison burst out. Her voice was high, breaking. Kids at school say our dad is a criminal. They say we're living on stolen money. They say we don't deserve anything. Emma's expression softened. She knelt down to Madison's level. I know what that feels like. When your dad left us, people treated us like we were broken, like we were damaged. It wasn't fair then, and it's not fair to you now. But our dad hurt you, Madison said, tears streaming down her face. He left you. Doesn't that make you hate us? No, Emma said firmly. It makes us understand you. You lost your father too. Maybe not the same way we did, but you lost him. And that's not your fault. Christopher spoke for the first time. He's not coming back, is he? Even after prison, he's never coming back. Lucas shook his head. Probably not. Our dad made choices that destroyed a lot of people, and now he has to live with those choices. But you don't. You get to decide who you want to be. You don't have to be defined by what he did. We stayed at the park for 2 hours. Emma and Madison walked by the pond, talking quietly. Lucas played basketball with Christopher, letting the younger boy win. Jennifer and I sat on a bench, watching our children tentatively build connections from the ruins their father had left behind. Thank you for this, Jennifer said, for giving them a chance to know each other. Most people wouldn't be this generous. I'm not doing it for David, I said. I'm doing it for them. They deserve to know they have siblings, that they're part of something bigger than the lies David told. Are you okay? Jennifer asked. Really okay? I thought about that question. Was I okay? I would never get back the 12 years David stole. I would never stop wondering what our lives could have been if he'd been a different man. Emma would always carry the scars of abandonment. Lucas would always have trust issues. But we were alive. We were together. And we were building something new from the ashes of what David had destroyed. I'm getting there, I said honestly. Some days are better than others, but I'm not drowning anymore. I'm surviving. And on good days, I'm even living. 6 months later, I did something I'd been too afraid to do before. I went on a date. His name was Robert. He was a teacher at Lucas's college, someone Lucas had introduced me to carefully, cautiously. Robert was divorced, kind, and most importantly, honest. He didn't hide his past. He didn't pretend to be someone he wasn't. Our first date was coffee. Simple, safe. We talked about books and movies and ordinary things. He didn't ask about David. He didn't treat me like a victim or a survivor. He treated me like a person. At the end, when he walked me to my car, he said, "I'd like to see you again, but only if you're ready. No pressure." I thought about David, who'd never given me choices, who'd decided our fate without consulting me, who'd erased me from his life without a word. "I'm ready," I said. "I'm ready to try." A year after David's sentencing, Emma called me with news. She'd gotten a teaching position at a high school in Portland. It was her dream job, working with at-risk kids, helping students who reminded her of herself at that age. "I'm going to tell them my story," she said. "Not all of it, but the parts that matter. About losing my dad, about being poor, about thinking I wasn't good enough, and about surviving anyway." "Are you sure?" I asked. "It's personal. That's why it matters," she said. "These kids need to know they're not alone, that other people have struggled and survived, that their circumstances don't define them." Lucas graduated college with honors. He was accepted to law school with a full scholarship. "I want to help people who can't afford lawyers," he told me. "People like us, who almost got crushed by the system because we didn't have resources." My children were taking their pain and transforming it into purpose. They weren't letting David's betrayal define them negatively. They were using it as fuel to become better people, to help others who suffered similar trauma. I was so proud I cried. 2 years after the trial, I received a letter from David. It was forwarded through his lawyer, written on prison stationery. I almost threw it away without reading it. But Emma, Lucas, and I had learned in therapy that closure sometimes requires facing the thing you most want to avoid. So I opened it. The letter was short. "Rebecca, I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I need you to know something. When I left, I told myself I was doing it for you and the kids. I told myself you'd be better off without me, that you'd get the insurance money and move on. I told myself a lot of lies to justify what I did. But the truth is simpler and uglier. I was a coward. I chose the easy way out. I chose to run instead of face consequences. I chose myself over everyone else. I destroyed lives because I was too weak to do the right thing. My new family, Jennifer and the kids, they didn't deserve what happened to them either. I lied to Jennifer the same way I lied to you. I built a fake life on top of the real one I destroyed. And now both lives are gone. I'm in prison. Jennifer and the kids lost everything. And you and Emma and Lucas spent 12 years suffering. All because I was a coward. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just needed you to know that you were right. About everything. I was never the man you thought I was. I was never worthy of you or our children. And I will spend the rest of my life knowing that the only true thing I ever created was pain. I'm sorry. For whatever it's worth, I'm sorry. David. I read the letter 3 times. Then I put it in a box with all the other artifacts from that chapter of my life. Our wedding photo, the police reports from when he disappeared, the newspaper articles about his arrest and trial. I didn't need to hold on to the pain anymore, but I didn't want to forget it either. It was part of my story, part of what shaped me into who I had become. That night, I called Emma and Lucas. I read them the letter. There was a long silence after I finished. Finally, Emma spoke. "Do you think he means it? The apology?" "I think he believes he means it," I said. "But I also think David is very good at believing whatever makes him feel better about himself. It doesn't change anything," Lucas said. "Sorry doesn't give us back 12 years. It doesn't undo the damage." "No," I agreed, "but it does give us something. Confirmation that we were right, that he was wrong, that we're better than him." "Are we?" Emma asked quietly. "We destroyed his life, his new family's lives. Was that better? Or did we just become like him?" The question haunted me. Had our pursuit of justice crossed the line into revenge? Had we hurt innocent people to punish a guilty one? "I think the difference," Lucas said thoughtfully, is that we gave people choices. We told Jennifer the truth and let her decide what to do with it. We protected Madison and Christopher as much as we could. We didn't lie. We didn't manipulate. We didn't run away. We faced the truth, even when it hurt. That's not what Dad did. He was right. We hadn't been perfect. We'd made mistakes. But we'd tried to do the right thing, even when the right thing was hard. We're not like him, I said firmly, because we're still here. We're still together. We're still trying to be good people despite what he did to us. That's the difference. 3 years after David's sentencing, I did something that surprised everyone, including myself. I started a nonprofit organization. It was called Phoenix Family Services, and its mission was to help families devastated by abandonment and financial fraud. We provided counseling, legal assistance, financial planning, and support groups. We helped people navigate the complex process of rebuilding their lives after catastrophic betrayal. Emma worked with us part-time, running support groups for children and teens. Lucas volunteered during law school, providing legal consultations. Even Jennifer got involved, sharing her experience and helping other women who'd discovered their marriages were based on lies. Victoria became one of our biggest donors. "This is what my brother would have wanted," she said when she wrote the first check. Not revenge, healing. Madison and Christopher came to our summer camps, programs designed to help kids whose parents were incarcerated or who'd suffered family trauma. They made friends with other children who understood their pain. They learned they weren't alone. One day, Madison, now 14, asked if she could speak at one of our fundraising events. I was hesitant. She was still young, still processing her trauma, but she insisted. "I need to tell my story," she said. "Other kids need to hear it." At the event, Madison stood in front of 200 people and spoke with a maturity beyond her years. "My name is Madison, and my father is in prison for fraud and embezzlement. When I was 10, FBI agents arrested him. I lost my home, my school, my friends, everything I thought was real. And I blamed myself. I thought if I'd been a better daughter, if I'd been smarter or prettier or more lovable, my dad wouldn't have done what he did. But I was wrong. His choices weren't about me. They were about him. And I'm not responsible for fixing them. I'm only responsible for who I choose to be. I have a half-sister named Emma and a half-brother named Lucas. Their mother, Rebecca, started this organization. Rebecca could have hated me. She could have blamed me for having the life her children should have had. But she didn't. She helped me. She showed me that I'm not my father's mistakes. I'm my own person, and that's why I'm here today. To tell other kids who are suffering because of what their parents did. You are not your parents' crimes. You are not their lies. You are not their failures. You are your own person, with your own future, with your own choices. And we're here to help you. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. I stood at the back of the room, crying, watching this brave girl transform her pain into power. After the event, Emma hugged Madison tightly. "You're going to be okay," she whispered. "We're all going to be okay." And for the first time in 5 years, I believed it. 5 years after David's arrest, I went to visit him in prison. I didn't tell anyone I was going. I just needed to do it for myself, to close a chapter that had been open for too long. The visiting room was sterile and cold. David shuffled in wearing prison orange, looking older than his 54 years. Gray hair, deep lines around his eyes, stooped shoulders. Prison had not been kind to him. He sat across from me, separated by a plexiglass barrier, and picked up the phone. I picked up mine. "Rebecca," he said. "Just my name. Nothing else." "David," I replied. We looked at each other for a long moment. I searched his face for something. I don't know what. Remorse? Understanding? The man I'd once loved? I saw none of it. Just a tired, broken man who'd destroyed everything he touched. "Why did you come?" he asked finally. "To see if I still felt anything," I said honestly. "Anger, hate, even pity. To see if you still had power over me. And do I?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. This man had shaped 15 years of my life, 12 years of marriage, 3 years of mystery when he disappeared, and 5 years of aftermath. He'd given me my children. He'd given me my deepest pain. He'd been the central figure of my life for so long. "No," I said, and I meant it. "You don't. You're just a stranger who made terrible choices. You're not my husband. You're not my children's father. You're just someone who used to be those things. David nodded slowly. I deserve that. You deserve a lot more than that, I said. But I'm not here to punish you. You're already punished. You're going to spend the next 27 years in prison. You've lost everything. I don't need to add to that. Emma and Lucas, he said, his voice cracking. Are they okay? They're more than okay. They're thriving. Emma's a teacher. Lucas is in law school. They're good people, despite you. Not because of you. And Madison and Christopher? They're healing. With Jennifer's help, and mine, and their own strength. David put his head in his hands. I destroyed so many lives. Yes, you did, I said simply. But the people you destroyed rebuilt themselves. We survived you. And we're better now than we were when we thought you loved us. I stood up. This is the last time I'll see you, David. I don't hate you. I don't forgive you. I just don't think about you anymore. You're irrelevant to my life now. And that's how it should be. I hung up the phone and walked out without looking back. 7 years after David's arrest, Emma got married. Her husband, Christopher, yes, they shared a name, was a fellow teacher she'd met at a conference. He was kind, patient, and completely transparent about his life, his past, his intentions. The wedding was small, held in a garden in Portland. Lucas was the man of honor. I walked Emma down the aisle, her arm linked through mine. Jennifer and her children were there. Madison, now 17, was one of Emma's bridesmaids. She and Emma had grown close, two sisters bound by shared trauma and mutual understanding. As I watched Emma exchange vows, promising honesty, loyalty, and love, I thought about her first wedding, the one that never happened because David disappeared 2 months before Emma's planned date years ago. No, wait, Emma was only 12 when David left. She'd never planned a wedding before. I thought about my own wedding to David, the promises we'd made, the future we'd planned, the lies that had poisoned everything. But this wedding was different. This was real. This was two people choosing each other with full knowledge of each other's flaws and pasts. This was built on truth, not fantasy. After the ceremony, Emma pulled me aside. "Thank you, Mom," she said, "for everything, for surviving, for fighting, for teaching me that it's possible to be hurt and still learn to trust again. You taught me that too," I said. "You and Lucas. You're the reason I survived." Lucas gave a toast at the reception. "To Emma and Chris," he said, raising his glass. "May your marriage be nothing like our parents' marriage. May it be built on honesty, trust, and the courage to face problems together instead of running away from them. May you always choose each other, every single day. And may you never forget that love isn't just a feeling. It's a choice, a commitment, and a promise kept." Everyone drank to that. 10 years after David's arrest, I received news. David had died in prison. Heart attack, sudden and unexpected. He was 57. I felt nothing when I heard. No grief, no relief, just a distant sense of finality. Emma and Lucas had similar reactions. David had become so irrelevant to our lives that his death barely registered as significant. "Should we go to the funeral?" Lucas asked. "Do they even have funerals for prisoners?" "I don't know," I said. "Do you want to?" They both shook their heads. Jennifer called me. "The prison is releasing David's body to me as his legal spouse. I know that's strange, given everything, but Madison and Christopher want to say goodbye. Would you and your children consider coming? Not for David, for them." So we went. A small service at a funeral home in Sacramento. Jennifer, Madison, Christopher, me, Emma, Lucas. A prison chaplain who'd known David for 2 years and spoke about his quiet demeanor and participation in Bible study. Madison cried. She was 19 now, in college, studying social work because she wanted to help families like ours. She cried not for the father David had been, but for the father he should have been. Christopher, 16, stood stoic and dry-eyed. He'd been angrier than Madison, less forgiving. He'd once told me he wished David had actually died 12 years ago, so at least he wouldn't have had time to betray a second family. After the service, the 6 of us, 2 mothers and 4 children, stood together in the cemetery where David's ashes would be buried. "He was my father," Madison said quietly, "and I loved him, even though I shouldn't have, even though he didn't deserve it. Is that wrong?" "No," Emma said, putting her arm around her younger sister. "It's not wrong to love someone who hurt you. It just means you have a good heart, a heart he didn't deserve. but a good heart nonetheless. I don't feel anything, Christopher admitted. I know I should feel sad or angry or something, but I just feel empty. That's okay too, Lucas said. There's no right way to grieve for someone who caused so much damage. You feel what you feel. I looked at these 4 young people, bound together by a man who'd betrayed them all in different ways, and I saw something David had never intended to create. A family. Not a traditional family. Not a family built on his lies, but a real family, built on shared pain, mutual understanding, and the choice to support each other despite everything. He tried to destroy us, I said. All of us. But we destroyed his plan instead. We survived. We found each other. We built something real out of his lies. That's the legacy David actually left. Not money, not property. Us. Together. Jennifer nodded. He thought he could erase his past and start over. But the past doesn't erase. It follows you. And eventually it catches up. We stood in silence for a moment. 6 people saying goodbye, not to a man we'd loved, but to a chapter of our lives that had finally ended. Then Emma spoke. I forgive him. We all turned to look at her, shocked. Not because he deserves it, she clarified. Not because what he did was okay, but because I deserve to be free of him. I deserve to not carry anger and hurt anymore. I forgive him so I can let go. One by one, the others echoed her words. I forgive him. I forgive him. I forgive him. When it was my turn, I hesitated. Could I forgive? Did I want to? I thought about the last 10 years. The struggle, the pain, the slow rebuilding. I thought about Phoenix Family Services and the hundreds of families we'd helped. I thought about Emma's wedding and Lucas's graduation. I thought about Madison's speech and Christopher's resilience. I thought about how David's betrayal had destroyed the woman I was and forced me to become someone stronger, more compassionate, more real. I forgive you, I said to the grave. Not because you earned it, but because I'm done letting you define my life. I'm done being the woman you abandoned. I'm done being shaped by your choices. I'm Rebecca Turner, and I built a life that matters despite you, not because of you. And that's enough. We left the cemetery together, 2 families merged by tragedy, separated by experience, but connected by something stronger than blood, by choice. 15 years after David left, I stood in the offices of Phoenix Family Services, looking at the wall of photos, hundreds of families we'd helped, children who'd found hope, parents who'd rebuilt their lives. Emma worked full-time now as our program director. Lucas, freshly graduated from law school, ran our legal aid clinic. Madison interned with us during college breaks. Even Christopher volunteered occasionally, tutoring kids whose parents were incarcerated. Jennifer served on our board, using her experience to guide our support programs for spouses who discovered their marriages were based on lies. Victoria had become one of my closest friends. The pain of losing her brother transformed into a mission to prevent other families from suffering similar losses. My assistant knocked on the door. Rebecca, there's someone here to see you. Says it's urgent. A woman walked in, young, maybe 30, with red eyes and trembling hands. I recognized the look. I'd worn it myself years ago. My husband disappeared 3 days ago, she said, her voice breaking. The police say there's no sign of foul play. His car is gone. His phone is off. He just vanished. And I don't know what to do. I have 2 kids. I can't afford a lawyer. I can't afford anything. And everyone keeps telling me to just wait and see. But I can't just wait. I stood up and came around my desk. I took her hands in mine. You're not alone, I said. I know exactly what you're feeling, and I'm going to help you through this. As I sat with her, starting the process of gathering information and connecting her with resources, I realized something profound. David hadn't destroyed me. He'd redirected me. Without his betrayal, I would never have understood this level of pain. I would never have built this organization. I would never have helped these families. I would never have become this person. I wouldn't choose to go through it again. I wouldn't wish this pain on anyone. But I also wouldn't erase it, because erasing it would mean erasing everything I'd become because of it. That night, I went home to the house I'd bought with the settlement money. It was modest, comfortable, nothing like David's ostentatious mansion. But it was mine, truly mine, bought with money that was rightfully owed to me. I opened a bottle of wine, something I'd learned to enjoy in the years of learning to live again, and sat on my back porch watching the sunset. My phone buzzed. A text from Emma. Dinner this weekend? Lucas wants to bring his new girlfriend. Another text from Madison. Can you review my application essay for grad school? You're the best writer I know. A third text from Jennifer. Board meeting notes attached. Also, thank you for everything. Always. I looked at these messages and smiled. This was my life now. Not the life I'd planned at 25 when I married David. Not the life I'd imagined at 30 when he disappeared. But a life I'd built from ruins. And a life that mattered. I'd spent 12 years believing David was dead. 5 years fighting for justice. And the last 8 years learning to live again. And you know what I discovered? The best revenge isn't destroying the person who hurt you. The best revenge is building a life so full of meaning, so rich with purpose, so surrounded by love, that their absence becomes irrelevant. David tried to erase me. Instead, he freed me to become someone better than I ever would have been as his wife. He tried to destroy our family. Instead, he gave Emma and Lucas the strength and compassion that made them extraordinary adults. He tried to build a new life on lies. Instead, he created connections between his children that never would have existed otherwise. He thought he'd won by escaping, but he lost everything in the end. While I, the woman he'd left broken and bleeding, I survived. I thrived. I became someone who mattered. That's the real ending to this story. Not his arrest or trial or death. Not even forgiveness. The real ending is this. He's gone. And I'm still here. Living, loving, helping others. Building something that will last long after I'm gone. My name is Rebecca Turner. I'm 53 years old. My husband left me 12 years ago, and I thought my life was over. But I was wrong. My life was just beginning.